We say it often, but it's really the truth. The Brotherhood runs the NBA, and that's the case once again this year.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Really excited to have a new episode of Locked On Blue Devils for you, where we talk about Duke athletics each and every day. We want to give you a rundown of what's going on in the life. On today's show, we're going to talk about Duke in the NBA so far this season. Once again, the Brotherhood all over the place in the league. And we got to talk about all of those great things with you here on today's show with our good friend Josh Cox. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Also, make sure that you watch us each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video. Share it with your friends. Really do appreciate all the support that you have for us here on Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, the aforementioned Josh Cox is here with us today. Got to give a rundown of the NBA, as Josh and I so frequently do throughout the course of the season. And once again, man, it's an NBA season that has had the Duke DNA all over it throughout the course of the year. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, you as well, JJ. Hope you had a great Christmas season, man. And yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, some NBA games that took place on Christmas Day. And just kind of, this is kind of one of those markers, right, in the NBA season. And so I feel like Christmas Day, kind of unofficially starts like what people would deem the real NBA season. But we've had a couple months of basketball leading up to this. So, yeah, certainly, as you mentioned, Duke is all over the NBA. That, historically, if you're an older Duke fan, that was not always the case. But it is absolutely the case, now. So just honestly, there's almost too many guys in the NBA to be able to keep up with. So.
Yeah, it's hard. And you start listing off players from Duke that play in the league, and you always forget them. And that just goes to show the number of different guys that we've got in the league that are making a big-time impact. Like any conversation, I think we got to start with Jayson Tatum, the man who right now I think everyone would agree is carrying the torch for Duke basketball. Here we are, a year in which we've already talked about the NBA championship that he won in June of 2024 to conclude last season. He goes and he's a part of Team USA, wins a gold medal at the Olympics, and now he's starting the new year fresh off a Christmas Day game where the Celtics did come up a little bit short against the 76ers. But as we get set to climb and go throughout the 2025 calendar year, Boston right there at the top as one of the main title contenders in the NBA.
Yeah, I think anytime your team wins, a title, there's the potential there for like a letdown season, coming off of that. And there's like a little bit of a hangover there. But I think a couple of things happened as people that followed basketball a little bit closely over the summer. The way that the USA basketball team was handled a little bit, not only, Duke-wise with Jayson Tatum, but also Jaylen Brown, being completely left off of that team. I think the Celtics have a lot to prove. I think they have a lot, those two guys at least. And so Tatum, listen, man, he's almost averaging a double-double. He's like right at 10 rebounds a game, which is, high for him typically. He's shooting the ball well. If you remember at the end of last season, it was well documented throughout the playoffs that his shot was seemingly broken, that he had lost his shot, and he had, And so Tatum's shooting right at 38% from three-point range again. And so once again, it seems like he's gotten that fixed. And then my man's averaging 30 points a game, 29 points a game. And this team is right back, as you mentioned, at the top of the East. And so no title hangover, right? No Kristaps Porzingis or getting him back. And they're right there at the top, and Jayson Tatum is having another MVP, type season.
Getting to see Emil Jefferson on the coaching staff again for Boston this year. He's moved to the front row on the bench, which is a big-time step up for him. Boston famously had second-row Joe, as in Missoula, who then the very next season steps up to being the head coach. So it's fun to see kind of the breakdown of those NBA benches, the staggered setup that they've got. But cool to see Emil Jefferson still there with Boston, too, and making an impact.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think Emil is a developer, a player developer. I think he did that well at Duke, and then, we'd probably be remiss to think that he didn't get that gig with Boston. Due in some respects to Jayson Tatum and his influence, and it speaks highly of Emil. If a guy like Tatum, a top 5 to 7 NBA player in the league, respects what you do on the bench enough to get you to Boston. And so, yeah, I love that. I mean, once again, Duke in the NBA, I mean, it starts at the very top in Adam Silver, a Duke grad, as the commissioner, and it works its way down through ownership and into front office, into coaching, head coaching, as well as you mentioned, support staff, and then of course players. So yeah, that Duke footprint is like firmly planted in the league.
Yeah, so look for Boston certainly to have a title run in them once again, once we get into the playoffs and as we start the new year. They're playing really good basketball. Another star on Christmas Day and another guy who was competing in the NBA Finals against Jayson Tatum, coming up a little bit short for the Dallas Mavericks. That's Kyrie Irving, who finishes with a 39-point performance on Christmas Day. A close loss there to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Luka Doncic is out for an extended period of time here, so we're set to see a lot of Kyrie Irving to begin the new year, and it's a Dallas team who knows they can get to that final series as they made it all the way to the finals last year. And it's crazy to think, we had those couple of weird seasons around COVID when Kyrie's going from Boston to Brooklyn to all over the place, playing games, not playing games. These last 2 or 3 years, man, he's really been dialed in, and he's kind of reminding the world, like, yeah, I'm really good at this sport, and it's always fun to see him out there competing with the best.
I mean, yeah, he's the ageless wonder. I mean, this guy's been in the league now, 13 years, going his 14th season or something like that, and his numbers are just are solid. As you mentioned, he's getting the opportunity, even when Luka's in the lineup. I really feel like Dallas does a great job of letting those two guys cook in their own ways.
Yeah.
And still complimenting one another, but still getting theirs, right? And so obviously Kyrie and Luka are both potentially ball dominant. Well, Luka's definitely a ball dominant player. Kyrie plays really well with the ball in his hand. But you look at the numbers this season, and I mean, you would think Kyrie Irving was 22 years old, you know what I mean? Like coming into his prime, but shooting the ball extremely well. I mean, shooting the ball over 44% from 3-point range this year. Once again, filling up the stat sheet as well, rebounds, assists, points. And as you mentioned, he's got a little bit of a window here where it's really going to be his team. And he's going to get maybe a little bit more usage rate there. And, I don't see any reason why we'd see a dip. Kyrie has kind of reclaimed his career in Dallas. He's reclaimed like his what people think about him, right? Like he's kind of redeemed that.
His image,
yeah, his image. That's the word. Sorry, man. Little holiday hangover. But he's redeemed that a little bit, and he seems like he's found a place that believes in him, and he's responding with some incredible play on the court. As you mentioned, Christmas Day was obviously the one of the best.
Yeah, a couple of plays he's just continuing to prove to the world. I think he's ambidextrous, like the definition of that. Obviously, the things you see him do with his right hand, his left hand, his handle is so tight and so clean, and a really fun player to watch. And then look, when he drives the lane, it's pretty good to see that kind of flow and afro on the post. And Dereck Lively II, who just wants it up towards the rim. And there's another Duke guy now in his second year who's still making a big impact.
Well, they finally decided, hey, we're a better team with Dereck Lively on the court. So why don't we go ahead and just put him in the starting lineup, right? Why don't we get him, multiple minutes? And that's nothing, no shade against like a Daniel Gafford or anybody else that would be getting minutes. But like when your best lineup on the floor includes Dereck Lively, you've got to maximize his minutes. And so once again, he's doing what he did last year, but just continuing it and growing in it. And that is, he's an elite rim runner. I mean, he provides that outlet for both Luka and Kyrie. When they drive the lane, and they do it uniquely, right? They don't do it the same. But when they drive the lane and they do in any way, pull help their way, it's a simple lob, man. It's a simple toss up. Duke is seeing it this season a little bit with Kaman, and they haven't gotten to the point obviously where Dallas is with Lively. But, you get in the lane, you've got multiple guys coming at you, and you've got the big. So you can almost blindly throw that thing because he's going to go get it. Well, that's what Dallas has done. And then Dereck Lively is excellent on the defensive end. He's a great rebounder. And the thing about him is, if he gets the ball out on the break, he can handle the ball decently. He's not behind to do this much. He can shoot the ball decently.
Yep.
And so he's just turning into, I mean, I know that they're using Tyson Chandler as a mentor to him. Man, that's the best comp, that I can think of for him. And I think he can be a better player than Tyson Chandler. But that is the mold, and he is absolutely fitting that mold right now.
Today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Recently, I was able to use Game Time to find tickets for an upcoming game. Browsing through deals was a breeze, and I found great value for all kinds of seats across the venue. The Super Deal in particular stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying, and the app shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, the one-time, on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today. We're giving a Duke in the NBA update, talking about some of the stars of Christmas Day, the stars within the league. We can't have a basketball conversation in the NBA without talking about the Lakers, Josh. And it's been a fun Lakers season with JJ Redick in his first season as a head coach. So crazy to think about this guy being as good as he was, a player, then turned media personality, broadcaster, bringing you coverage of that NBA final series between Tatum and the Boston Celtics and Irving and the Dallas Mavericks. And now he's the head coach of the Lakers. It's been crazy to see him over there on the sidelines. He's so addicted and obsessed with it, as his personality goes to show, as he's talked about so often. And I think in many ways, he's probably relatively satisfied with the start that they've had this year. It could be way, way worse with the Lakers right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think anybody that follows the NBA and even remotely understands that roster's got its challenges, right? I mean, it's a very top-heavy roster financially, right? They're heavily invested in AD and LeBron, understandably. The Lakers historically have respected their legends. I mean, You remember the Kobe contract late in his career that did not make financial sense. I mean, you could see where Kobe was in his career, but they wanted to honor him. And they did that. That's kind of what you see with LeBron. Not that LeBron doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying he's towards the end of his career, and they're still maxing him out. But then what you've seen is, the Dalton Connect draft pick was obviously is paying off. He's figuring out his spot in the league. He's got to stay on the court. He's got to compete on the defensive end to stay on the court. Obviously, he knows that. But then you got your AR-15 who's once again playing well. All that to say, JJ has a limited roster, but I believe they can put together a rotation that can compete. And JJ is, as you mentioned, a psycho. Like, he's a basketball psycho. So he is going to put these guys in position to win. Listen, JJ doesn't take crap from anybody. He doesn't take plays off. If there's a baseline out of bounds play, JJ Redick's going to try to score on that baseline out of bounds play, right? I mean, even if it's a December 15th Tuesday night game, in Atlanta playing the Hawks, he's not going to take a play off. And I'm not accusing NBA coaches and players of taking plays off. I'm just saying that, like, JJ Redick is not. And so I think that LeBron and AD, leading that team in the locker room, are thriving on the fact that they have a coach that's, like, in their grill and a coach that's like, psycho. And I believe that's going to, as the year progresses, staying injury free if possible, this team could be ready for the playoffs. And, you got to give a lot of credit to the coach for sure.
Without a doubt, a lot of Laker connections and Duke connections within this team itself. On JJ Redick's coaching staff, he has Lindsey Harding as one of his assistant coaches, and her number 10 jersey is in the rafters for Duke women's basketball. What a great career she had. And then Cam Reddish, when you look at what the Lakers have done so far this season, they've struggled on defense mightily at times, given the age of LeBron and some of the other roster kind of issues that they've got out there. But, man, they play their best defense when Cam Reddish is out there on the floor. Like, it's crazy to watch this guy come in, Josh, and instantly, again, you're not getting a whole lot these days from Cam Reddish offensively, but, like, when he checks in, he's so kind of straight-faced and calm and understands, I need to go probably cover and defend the best player on the other team.
Well, and this was the career saver for Cam Reddish. I mean, my opinion, if this move to the Lakers didn't go well, Cam Reddish is probably out of the league, playing overseas or whatever it may be. And that's crazy to think because he was so coming out of high school and the last, senior year of high school, and even the flashes he showed at Duke, you're like, man, this guy's really going to be a good rotation player in the league. And then he gets in the league and really struggles. Well, this has been a rejuvenation for his career. And I believe it's probably a combination of many things. It has to help you as a young guy trying to get your bearings in the league to be on a team with LeBron James. That has to help. You see the work and effort he puts in, on a daily basis, keeping his body right, his mind right. But then you have a fellow Brotherhood member as your head coach, that can maybe, I don't know, I'm not there, but, there may be some conversations, right, that JJ is able to have with Cam on a more personal level than what would be if he was at another, organization without a Duke guy. And so I'm happy for Cam Reddish. I hope Cam Reddish carves out his spot in the league and becomes that guy that's a great rotation player that playoff teams want to add to their roster, or, he becomes that kind of a guy. And I think he has all the potential to be that and more.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch the Lakers. We'll see if they're able to keep it going. They're in the playoffs right now if the season were to end today. And so we'll see if that continues for the Lake Show with JJ Redick moving forward as a head coach. And on the Christmas Day game, Steph Curry mic'd up, comes over and kind of asks JJ Redick in the middle of the game how many times has he been teed up this season. And Redick told him just once. So he's kept his composure for the most part, but he's definitely kind of dialed into everything that the Lakers are doing there. And, man, that's just been so much fun to watch him day in and day out. And as you said, he's going to tell you the honest truth about how his team looks out there on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, we got to know JJ, but we got to know him, through his podcast. And, the Old Man of the Three, which, they've rebranded now and whatnot. But back when you got a weekly dose of JJ Redick, you kind of got an inside look at the way he operates and the way his mind works. And you're seeing that play out. What you're seeing is he's a real guy. And the way that he talked on his podcast is really the way he is, right? And then we saw a little glimpse of just the deep psychotic side of basketball with JJ when he and LeBron, did their couple of episodes of a podcast together. And so you're just seeing that play out. I just think you're seeing this is who JJ Redick is. You're seeing it play out as a coach, and I believe he's going to be successful in the league. I mean, listen, you set yourself up, man. When you take that job as the Lakers head coach, all eyes are on you. You know the roster limitations. You understand it going in. You understand everything, all the drama and politics that come with being the Los Angeles Lakers head coach. He took it head on. He's dealt with the Bronny James situation as well as I believe anybody can deal with it. And they're winning basketball games. So, man, I think a 10 out of 10 so far for JJ Redick and what he's done in LA.
Okay, talking about another team in the Western Conference that has been terrible, to say the least, so far this season, led by two star figures within the Duke world. We're talking about the Pelicans, and we're talking about Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. Injuries for Zion, Josh, and it's just really difficult to watch because, man, he is so special out there on the basketball floor. And speaking to LeBron just a little bit ago, I've had just these crazy fever dreams of Zion getting a chance to play for the Lakers at some point and kind of getting to watch and model LeBron, who's got so much respect for his career, but taking care of his body and that sort of thing, because this has been tough to watch for Zion.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, I'm not sure that there was a more beloved player in the modern Duke basketball, world than Zion Williamson. I mean, he came into Durham. He absolutely loved that season at Duke. Duke fans were just head over heels for the guy. Understandably. I mean, I was one of them. I mean,
Yeah,
went
I'm
to
there
as
with you.
many, yeah, went to as many games that season as I could. Was at the ACC tournament game against Carolina. Just all those things, and then you see, number one, I think we can all say now, you see him get in the league and not take care of himself. I mean, I think that is now unequivocally the truth. And then you have that, you see him lose some weight and kind of have that struggle back and forth. And I thought heading into this season, that this was going to be the year that he was going to be able to put it together. At the end of last year, felt like he got it together. He got injured in that playoff game. But other than that, I mean, the end of the season last year, he was absolutely dominant. When Zion Williamson is playing, they are my league pass team. I want to watch that guy cook. But it's just unfortunate, man. I don't know. LeBron James has been able, in a big body, to, knock on wood, be relatively injury free throughout his entire career. There's been a couple of times where he's had blips, on that. But for the most part, LeBron has not had big injuries, crazy injuries throughout his entire career. He takes care of his body, he spends money on his body. And at some point in time, Zion Williamson is going to have to make that commitment. He's going to have to. And if he doesn't make that commitment, then he's going to be one of those big what ifs.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about him in the history of the NBA of like what this guy could have been. And, and here's the deal, different than Derrick Rose, Grant Hill, and those type people. Those guys had injuries that they could do nothing about.
Right.
I think if we're honest, we're going to look at Zion's if he doesn't change and say, yeah, he was injury prone, but it was his doing. And so you're right, JJ. I mean, and this is like the first time I think you and I have even had kind of this more somber conversation around Zion. I think in years past, it's always been like, oh, he's going to figure it out. He's going to figure it out. He's going to figure it out. I got to be honest with you. Now we're 5 years in to his NBA career, and I have to question, is he going to figure it out?
Sure. And that's a sad spot for us to be in, but hopefully he can. And again, when he's out there on the floor, what's so crazy is that even if he misses time, like the first game back, you're going to get 26 and 8 from him. Immediately, as soon as he steps on the floor, you're going to get ferocious dunks. Like his body just kind of gets back into check and it's ready to go. It's just some of those off the court things that he's got to continue to focus on and kind of take care of there.
Yeah, and I mean, from what all we've been told, there are clauses in his contract where if he does this or that health-wise, he gets bonuses. And so, like, that's the other thing. I mean, you're throwing away money, right? You're not meeting those standards that are set in your contract. There's benchmarks that you have to hit, and you're losing money. And I understand, Zion signed a big shoe deal, right, coming out of college, all those types of things. But man, you got to think about the next 20 years of your life and, maximizing your value. And so hopefully somebody can get through to him. And because I would love nothing more than to watch Zion Williamson healthy in a 7-game playoff series and watch somebody try to beat that guy 4 out of 7 games.
Yeah.
Because
really hard to do that.
He's dominant when he's healthy.
That's what, it's incredible to watch. On his team, he's got another top 3 pick in the league. It's Brandon Ingram, who's also been kind of dealing with injuries himself throughout the course of the year. And his name is constantly in trade rumors so far. And there's an opportunity or possibility that he'll be moved prior to the February trade deadline as we get a little bit closer to that, given the state of his contract and whatnot. But man, BI, incredible basketball player, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand all the ins and outs of the way the NBA salary caps and all these, the CBA stuff works. But I do know that expiring contracts seem to be, the current team wants to move them, and other teams are willing to take it on because it only hits them for this season, and then they can figure it out. And
while they're trying to make a playoff push.
Exactly. So I do think, I don't think any of us may probably expect Brandon Ingram to still be a Pelican at the end of the season. As the season progresses, they're going to be looking to move him. The question is, JJ, and I've got to be honest here, it's got to be the right situation. And it's got to be, and also BI has got to understand that if he does get traded to a playoff contender, he can be kind of a ball stopper a little bit. Like we mentioned Kyrie and Luka kind of being ball dominant. BI can be ball dominant and not really as a playmaker, but as just a scorer.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to potentially turn into a little bit more of a catch and shoot guy on a playoff team, or be willing to adjust his game a little bit if he wants to win this season. I don't know what that all means. Smarter people than you or I are dealing with this, as far as his agent, as far as the Pelicans, and as far as those teams
we'll
are looking.
See.
But yeah, I think something's going to happen. And here's the thing: I hope BI gets on a squad that he can become a part of that rotation. Help them take a next step in the playoff, because he's an elite scorer, man. He always has been, but he is an elite scorer, and you cannot block that jumper. He's like KD, man. You cannot block it. He's just too tall, and he gets the ball up so high, and you just can't block him.
Today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are here and better than ever with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. It's a race to the Super Bowl, and we're all wondering whether or not Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs can win their third straight Super Bowl. Not only that, it's crunch time. Now that the ACC basketball season is tipping off, our Duke Blue Devils have really good odds right now with our friends over at FanDuel to win the entire league. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today. We're talking about Duke and the NBA. The Brotherhood has its DNA and blueprint, fingerprints, everything all over the league. As you mentioned, it starts at the top there with Commissioner Adam Silver. To kind of wrap up our conversation today, Josh, let's check in on the rookies. A couple of new guys have had an opportunity to join the mix of the NBA this season. Jared McCain, first-round draft pick to the Philadelphia 76ers, and then Kyle Filipowski, a second-round pick in his first season playing for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, so I'll start with Kyle. I mean, obviously, a lot of drama surrounding Kyle Filipowski around draft night, some things, media-wise he had to deal with on a personal level. And so, my personal opinion, I believe, Kyle's played great. I mean, for being a second-round draft pick, really your expectation you got to be logical about your expectations, but he's getting minutes and he's producing. And there's some really awesome clips of I've seen some of him, driving in the lane and doing something. I'm like, Duke fans are like, whoa, wait a minute. We really wanted to see that,
last absolutely
season, from Kyle. But, I believe he's in a good spot in Utah. They're in a weird kind of a time in their organization. But if they choose to move forward and bring him as a part of what they want to do in the future, I think he's in a great spot there in Utah. And I wish him, nothing but the best. Hopefully he can get his shooting. It would be nice if I think he's shooting in the low 30s, 33, 34%, something like that from three right now. If Kyle Filipowski can become a 38 to 40% three-point shooter, then that guy becomes a super valuable NBA player. And so I think if I were whispering in Kyle Filipowski's ear right now, I would be like, hey, bro, you've got to improve the three-point shot. You improve it, and you're like a top 5-6 rotation guy on pretty much any team, but you've got to improve the shooting.
He's been fun to watch, and the kind of roster and team around him in Utah is certainly unique and interesting. They've got so many players that kind of look like him, and their game is so similar in so many different ways, but big start to his career. Same could be said for Jared McCain and the start to the season that he's had. Obviously, we've got a pause in that dynamic right now, considering the meniscus injury that McCain just suffered, having to undergo surgery, and he's out indefinitely right now for Philadelphia. But, man, he was a front runner for that Rookie of the Year award prior to his injury.
Man, there's something in that Philly water, man. You got to keep people healthy. I don't know what the deal is. It was insane, though, to see Philly with Maxey, PG, and Embiid on the court at the same time on Christmas. I could not believe it. And ironically, they win the basketball game. So interesting. So I will say this. about Philly before Jared McCain. If Philly can stay in the playoff hunt and be healthy at the end of the season, I would not want to face this team in a 7-game series. No way in the world. Okay. But back to Jared McCain.
That's a big if for them to stay
healthy.
healthy.
It's a big if. It's a big if. So Jared McCain, at number one, he's not shooting a crazy percentage from three. So I think Duke fans, if you would have told us back in June, Jared McCain is going to be talked about for Rookie of the Year in the first two months of the season, we would all say he's probably shooting 46% from three.
Yeah.
He's not. He's just, I mean, I've
38.3.
38.3% from three. So shooting well, but not shooting like an insane amount from three. What we're seeing, and I'm going to use this name, and I want to apologize in advance because this comp is way up there. But you're seeing the Curry-esque type of vibe from him.
Yeah.
You're seeing him get in the lane. You're seeing him with some acrobatic finishes. You're seeing him shooting that midi, over people. You're basically seeing him. I think the best word for it is crafty. You're seeing Jared McCain be crafty. And unfortunately, he's injured right now. As you mentioned, that might, honestly, it might mess him up for Rookie of the Year, depending on how long he's out. But I will tell you this. In a city that is known for being cutthroat, a fan base that is known to be haters, that dude, you cannot hate him.
Yeah.
You can't. You cannot hate Jerry. You can make fun of his nails. Go ahead. Make fun of his nails. And to your buddies, you might feel all good. Deep down inside, you watch that dude play basketball and you're like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
He's always smiling.
He has fun playing the game. He plays the game the right way. He competes 110% with a smile on his face. Like, this, man. I'm a Jared McCain fan. 100%, always have been. But he's going into a place like Philly. At the beginning of the season, no Embiid, no PG. Maxey gets hurt. And there was a few games there where it was like the Jared McCain show, like give him the keys. And he's taking it on, and he's been a professional's professional. He's getting Kyle Lowry and some of the old heads to like chill a little bit, getting him on some TikToks,
Yeah.
And so like making everybody a little bit younger, like bringing that vibe. And no, I wish him nothing but the best. And like I said, I love it. We can't close this out also without Paolo Banchero was on his way back. And so just keep your eye on those Orlando Magic too.
Yeah, without a doubt, that's going to be a really fun team to watch. And look, now that we're getting closer towards the playoffs, that means we're going to have more of these kind of NBA check-ins coming, Josh, with the conversations that you and I have so frequently. So really great to see you once again. Really excited to kick off 2025, kind of looking at what the NBA looks like from a Duke perspective. Tell people where they could find all your work, Josh, and how they can support you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm at Joshua Cox on X, at Duke FB Talk. We talk a lot of football, Duke football there. And then I do some work for Duke Report during basketball season as well. So, yeah, would love the support. Appreciate your following along, and make sure that you like this, subscribe on YouTube, and give JJ all the 5-star ratings and reviews because he deserves it.
I appreciate it, man. I'll see you soon, Josh.
All right, man. We'll see you, JJ.
All right, that's Josh Cox joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Really fun conversation with him. Love seeing the Duke guys in the NBA at the next level. Hopefully they have continued success in the days and games and weeks to come. Thanks so much for your support. As always, go Duke. We'll talk to you again soon. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.